The silence on Kepler Station had lasted exactly 47 seconds before Captain Maria Santos knew something was terribly wrong. The mining outpost orbiting the gas giant Kepler 442b should have been buzzing with activity at this hour. 300 souls worked the asteroid belt, pulling rare metals from the void to fuel humanity's expansion into the galaxy. Maria pressed her comm unit again. Kepler Station, this is Captain Santos aboard the UES Meridian. Please respond. Static filled the bridge of her patrol cruiser. Her crew of 12 had been making routine supply runs to the outer colonies for the past 6 months. Nothing prepared them for this. Captain, called out Lieutenant Commander Chen from the sensor station, his voice tight with concern. I'm reading massive energy signatures. The station's hull is breached in multiple sections. Life support is failing. Through the bridge's main viewport, Kepler Station came into view. The sprawling complex of interconnected modules and mining platforms looked like a broken toy. Entire sections had been torn away, twisted metal floating in space like scattered bones. Emergency lights flickered weakly across the remaining structures. Jesus Christ, whispered Navigator Brooks, a 20-year veteran who had seen combat during the Martian Independence War. What could do that kind of damage? Maria's jaw tightened. The attack patterns were too precise, too calculated to be pirates or system malfunctions. Take us in closer, but stay alert. Chen, run deep scans on everything. I want to know what happened here. As the Meridian approached, the true scope of the devastation became clear. The main habitat ring had been completely severed. Processing plants that had operated for 15 years were now floating debris. The massive solar collection arrays hung at impossible angles, their surfaces blackened and melted. Captain, I'm picking up a weak distress beacon from the command module, reported Communications Officer Reyes. It's automated, but there might be survivors in the emergency shelters. The rescue operation took 4 hours. Maria led the boarding party herself, moving through the twisted corridors of what remained of Kepler Station. The emergency lighting cast eerie shadows on the walls, and their magnetic boots clanked against the metal flooring with each step. They found 17 survivors huddled in the deepest emergency shelter, a reinforced chamber designed to withstand asteroid impacts. Among them was Station Commander David Park, a grizzled engineer whose family had helped build the first lunar colonies. Commander Park, Maria said as her medic checked him for injuries. What happened here? Who did this? Park's eyes were hollow with shock and grief. They came out of nowhere, Captain. Ships unlike anything in our databases. We tried to hail them, tried to surrender, but they just started firing. Precision strikes, like they were dissecting us. Did you get a look at them? Any visual confirmation? Rodriguez in the observatory managed to get some footage before... Park's voice broke. Before they took out the entire section. The bastards targeted our evacuation pods first. Made sure nobody could escape to warn Earth. Maria felt ice form in her stomach. A coordinated attack on civilians, with specific targeting of escape routes. This wasn't random violence. This was systematic extermination. Back aboard the Meridian, Maria reviewed the footage Rodriguez had died recording. The alien ships were elegant in a terrifying way, like crystalline daggers cutting through space. They moved with purpose and intelligence, their energy weapons carving through Kepler Station's defenses as if they were paper. Analysis complete, Captain, Chen reported. The weapon signatures are completely unknown. Energy output suggests technology significantly more advanced than ours. The attack lasted exactly 43 minutes. They were thorough. Any sign of where they went? Jump signatures suggest they headed toward the Perseus Arm. But, Captain, there's something else. The attack wasn't just about destroying the station. They were collecting data during the assault. Our communication logs show they were downloading everything from our databases. Maria stared at the tactical display showing the jump vectors. The aliens now had detailed information about human space, trade routes, defensive positions, and population centers. Kepler Station hadn't just been attacked, it had been harvested for intelligence. "Set course for Earth," she ordered. "Maximum burn, and send a priority Alpha message to Fleet Command. Tell them we have a first contact situation, and it's hostile." The journey to Earth took 3 weeks. During that time, Maria compiled her report, interviewed every survivor, and analyzed every piece of data they had recovered. The picture that emerged was disturbing. The aliens had struck with military precision, showing detailed knowledge of human technology and tactics. This wasn't a random encounter. It was a planned operation. As the Meridian approached the Sol system, Maria received new orders. She was to proceed directly to Fleet Command on Luna, where Admiral Rebecca Sterling was waiting. Sterling had built her reputation during humanity's expansion wars, earning respect for both her tactical brilliance and her unwavering protection of human colonies. The briefing room on Luna Base was packed with the highest-ranking officers in the fleet. Maria stood before the massive holographic display showing the wreckage of Kepler Station and the tactical analysis of the alien attack. 300 souls, Admiral Sterling said quietly, her weathered hands clasped behind her back. Engineers, miners, their families, people who went to the frontier to build something better for humanity. The room was silent except for the soft hum of life support systems. Maria had delivered her report with professional detachment, but the weight of those lost lives hung heavy in the air. "The aliens demonstrated clear technological superiority," continued Maria. "Their ships moved faster than our best interceptors, their weapons cut through our defensive systems like they weren't there, and their targeting was surgical. They knew exactly how to cripple our response." "And the intelligence gathering?" asked General Morrison, head of the Colonial Defense Force. "Comprehensive. They downloaded our star charts, trade routes, defensive positions, even civilian population data. They now know the location and defensive capabilities of every human settlement within 50 light-years of Earth." Admiral Sterling turned to face the assembled officers. Her expression was grim but determined. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are faced with our first truly hostile alien contact, an enemy that strikes without warning, shows no interest in communication, and systematically eliminates civilian populations." She gestured to the tactical display, which now showed human space with potential threat vectors highlighted. "Based on the intelligence they've gathered, we estimate they have the data needed to strike at any of our major colonies. Mars, Europa Station, the Centauri colonies, all of them are now potential targets." "What are our options, Admiral?" asked Captain Williams. "Commander of the heavy cruiser Yorktown." Sterling's eyes hardened. "We have 2 choices. We can wait for them to strike again, hope our defenses hold, and pray they'll eventually negotiate, or we can take the fight to them." The silence that followed was deafening. Taking offensive action against an unknown alien species was unprecedented in human history. The political and ethical implications were staggering. "Admiral," said General Morrison carefully, "we don't even know where they come from. The jump signatures lead toward the Perseus arm, but that covers thousands of star systems." "That's where our intelligence services come in," Sterling replied. She activated a new section of the hologram, showing deep space monitoring stations throughout human space. "We've been tracking unusual energy signatures for the past 6 months. Faint, but consistent. Our analysts believe they've been watching us, studying us, long before Kepler Station." The display showed a pattern of surveillance that painted a disturbing picture. The aliens had been systematically observing human colonies, mapping defensive positions, and identifying targets. Kepler Station wasn't their first contact with humanity. It was the opening move in a larger strategy. "We've identified 3 possible staging areas where these signatures originate," Sterling continued. "Deep space installations or bases where they've been coordinating their surveillance. If we can hit one of these locations, we might be able to gather intelligence on their home system." "And if we can't?" asked Captain Chen of the destroyer Prometheus. Sterling's expression was iron. Then we keep hunting until we find them. Because one thing is certain, they're not done with us. The attack on Kepler Station was a test, a probe to measure our responses and capabilities. The real attack is still coming. She turned back to the tactical display, highlighting specific fleet positions. I'm authorizing the formation of Task Force Retribution. We're going to hunt down these aliens and make them pay for what they did at Kepler Station. The room stirred, with a mixture of anticipation and apprehension. Task Force Retribution would be the largest military operation in human history, venturing into unexplored space to engage an unknown enemy with superior technology. "Captain Santos," Admiral Sterling said, turning to Maria, "you're the only officer who's seen their ships in action. I want you on my staff as tactical advisor. Your experience at Kepler Station could mean the difference between success and disaster." Maria nodded grimly. The faces of the Kepler Station survivors flashed through her mind, along with the empty spaces where their dead had once stood. "Understood, Admiral. What's the timeline?" "We mobilize in 72 hours. Every available ship, every trained crew. We're not just going to find these aliens." Sterling's voice carried the weight of absolute determination. "We're going to show them exactly what happens when you attack human beings." As the briefing concluded and officers began filing out to prepare their ships, Maria remained behind, staring at the holographic display of Kepler Station's wreckage. Somewhere out there in the void, an alien species had made a fateful decision to target humanity. They had shown no mercy, no hesitation, no regard for human life. They were about to learn that humanity could be equally merciless when protecting its own. The war for humanity's survival was about to begin, and Maria Santos found herself at the center of the storm. The aliens had struck first, believing humans to be weak and unprepared. They were about to discover just how wrong they were. In the depths of space, fleet yards across human territory buzzed with activity as ships were refitted, weapons systems upgraded, and crews prepared for the unknown. The aliens had wanted to test humanity's resolve. They were about to get their answer, delivered with the full force of human fury and determination. The countdown to retribution had begun. The assembly of Task Force Retribution was the largest military mobilization in human history. Ships from every corner of human space converged on Luna Station, creating a fleet that dwarfed anything humanity had ever assembled. Dreadnoughts from the Mars shipyards, fast attack cruisers from the Centauri colonies, and specialized vessels from the Outer Rim all gathered under Admiral Sterling's command. Captain Maria Santos stood in the Fleet Command Center, watching the massive holographic display that showed over 400 ships arranged in precise formations. Each vessel represented years of human engineering, thousands of trained crew members, and the collective will of humanity to survive. "The Titan-class dreadnoughts are reporting ready for departure," announced Commander Jackson, Sterling's chief of staff. "All ships have been retrofitted with enhanced shielding and the new quantum torpedoes." Admiral Sterling studied the tactical readouts with the intensity of a predator planning a hunt. "What's the status on our intelligence gathering?" "The Deep Space Monitoring Network has identified the primary staging area," reported Intelligence Officer Dr. Sarah Kim. "System designation, Kepler 1649, approximately 60 light-years from Sol. Our long-range probes detected massive energy signatures and artificial structures." Maria leaned forward, studying the sensor data. "The energy patterns match what we saw at Kepler Station. This has to be one of their forward bases." "Agreed," Sterling nodded. "We hit this target first, gather intelligence, and trace them back to their source. Commander Jackson, signal the fleet. We depart in 6 hours." The jump to Kepler 1649 took the combined fleet 4 days, traveling in staggered waves to avoid detection. As they approached the target system, the magnitude of the alien presence became clear. The system's asteroid belt had been transformed into a massive military installation with crystalline structures that pulsed with an eerie blue light. "My God," whispered Navigator Chen as the main screen displayed the alien base. "It's the size of Earth's moon." The alien installation was a work of terrible beauty, its crystalline surfaces reflecting starlight in patterns that seemed almost organic. Defensive platforms orbited the main structure like metallic flowers, their weapons tracking the approaching human fleet with mechanical precision. "Analysis complete," reported the science officer aboard Sterling's flagship, the UES Retribution. "The base is generating enough power to supply a small planet. We're detecting approximately 200 alien vessels in defensive positions." Sterling's expression was granite hard. 200 ships to guard a forward base? How many more are protecting their homeworld?" Maria studied the tactical display, noting the alien formations. "They're not arranged for maximum defensive efficiency. This looks more like a patrol station than a fortress. They weren't expecting us to find them." "That's about to change," Sterling said grimly. "All ships, battle stations, we're going in." The Battle of Kepler 1649 lasted 18 hours and reshaped human understanding of space warfare. The alien ships moved like living creatures, their crystalline hulls shifting and adapting to incoming fire. Their energy weapons carved through space with surgical precision, targeting human vessels with terrifying accuracy. But humanity had advantages the aliens hadn't anticipated. Human ships were built for endurance and redundancy, designed to take massive damage and keep fighting. When alien precision strikes disabled primary systems, backup systems engaged. When alien weapons punched through outer hulls, human crews fought on from secondary command centers. The battle's turning point came when the heavy cruiser Yorktown sacrificed itself in a ramming attack against the alien base's primary power core. Captain Williams and his crew of 800 dove their ship directly into the crystalline structure, their quantum torpedoes detonating in a chain reaction that lit up the system like a second sun. The alien base cracked like an egg, its defensive platforms going dark as power cascaded across the installation. In the sudden darkness, human boarding parties struck with ruthless efficiency. "Boarding Party Alpha has reached the alien command center," reported Marine Colonel Harrison over the comm. "Resistance is minimal. These beings, they're not built for close combat." Maria joined the boarding operation, her boots magnetic clamping to the alien corridors as her squad moved through the eerily beautiful structure. The aliens themselves were tall and graceful, with translucent skin that showed the circulation of some kind of luminous fluid. They moved like dancers, even in death, their bodies arranged in precise patterns around their control stations. "They're ritualistic," observed Dr. Kim, who had accompanied the boarding team. "Look at the way they positioned themselves when they died. This isn't random. They have some kind of honor code or religious practice." "Honor code or not, they murdered 300 civilians," Maria replied coldly, examining an alien control panel. "Can you access their database?" Dr. Kim worked quickly, her portable interface adapting to the alien technology with surprising ease. "Their system architecture is completely different from ours, but the underlying mathematics are universal. I'm getting something. Coordinates, star charts, tactical assessments." The data Dr. Kim extracted from the alien systems painted a terrifying picture. The beings called themselves the Cathara, and they had been watching humanity for over 20 years. Their surveillance network extended throughout human space, with hidden monitoring stations in dozens of systems. But more disturbing was their assessment of humanity as a species. The Cathara viewed humans as a rapidly expanding infection that needed to be contained before it could threaten their civilization. The attack on Kepler Station had been a surgical strike, designed to gauge human military responses and identify weaknesses. "They're planning a full-scale invasion," Dr. Kim reported as she downloaded terabytes of alien intelligence. Multiple fleet groups, simultaneous strikes on Earth, Mars, and the major colonies. They call it the Great Cleansing. Admiral Sterling's face was stone when she reviewed the intelligence aboard the Retribution. The alien fleet preparing for the invasion was massive, containing thousands of ships with technology far superior to humanity's. The Cathara had been planning this assault for decades, treating it as an inevitable necessity. "How long do we have?" Sterling asked. "Based on their timeline, the invasion fleet will depart their homeworld in 6 months," Dr. Kim replied. "The journey to Earth will take them approximately 4 months. So 10 months total before they arrive at Sol." The silence in the command center was oppressive. Even with the victory at Kepler 1649, humanity faced extinction within a year. The alien invasion fleet would overwhelm Earth's defenses through sheer numbers and technological superiority. "There's something else," Dr. Kim continued quietly. "The location of their homeworld. It's in the Kepler 442 system, orbiting a red dwarf star. The planet is called Cathara Prime, and it's the center of their entire civilization." Sterling stood slowly, her command staff watching her with mixture of hope and desperation. "Show me." The holographic display shifted to show a 3-dimensional map of local space. Kepler 442 was highlighted, its distance from Earth calculated down to the kilometer. The journey would take human ships nearly 2 months at maximum velocity. "Admiral," said Commander Jackson carefully, "if their invasion fleet is that large, our only chance might be to strike their homeworld before they can launch." "A preemptive strike on their entire civilization," Sterling mused. "We'd be talking about planetary bombardment on a scale never attempted by humanity." Maria felt her stomach clench. The tactical situation was clear, but the moral implications were staggering. They were discussing the potential genocide of an entire species, billions of alien lives wiped out to protect humanity. "Admiral, we have confirmation of Cathara settlements on 12 worlds throughout their system," reported the intelligence officer. "Their population is estimated at over 40 billion individuals. This isn't just about their military. We'd be targeting their entire species." The command center fell silent. Through the viewports, the wreckage of the alien base drifted past, its crystalline beauty now shattered and dark. The Cathara had shown no mercy at Kepler Station, no hesitation in planning humanity's extinction, but the scale of retaliation they were contemplating would dwarf any atrocity in human history. "They gave us no choice," Sterling said finally. "The intelligence is clear. They view us as a disease to be eradicated. If we don't act first, humanity will be extinct within a year." She turned to her staff officers, her expression resolved. "I'm authorizing Operation Final Solution. We take the entire fleet to Cathara Prime and end this threat permanently." "All of their worlds, Admiral?" asked Commander Jackson. Sterling's voice was iron. "All of them. We can't risk leaving any staging areas for future attacks. They wanted a war of extinction. They're going to get one." The modification of Task Force Retribution took 3 weeks. Human ships were retrofitted with the most powerful weapons in their arsenal. Planet-killer missiles designed to crack continents, quantum bombs that could destabilize a world's core, and experimental antimatter warheads that had never been tested in combat. Maria found herself assigned to the strike coordination team, planning the systematic destruction of an entire star system. The tactical requirements were straightforward, but the weight of what they were about to do pressed down on her like a physical force. "The primary target is Cathara Prime," she briefed the fleet commanders from the Retribution's main briefing room. "Population 41 billion, heavily defended with orbital platforms and a planetary shield grid. Secondary targets are their industrial worlds and military installations." The holographic display showed each target in detail. Beautiful blue-green worlds with crystalline cities that spiraled up from their surfaces like frozen music. In different circumstances, they might have been places of wonder and cultural exchange. Instead, they were marked for total annihilation. Intelligence suggests the Cathara have no experience with total warfare, continued Maria. Their conflicts have been limited, ritualistic affairs. They won't expect us to target their civilian populations. Good, said Captain Morrison of the Dreadnought Vengeance. After what they did at Kepler Station, they deserve everything we're going to give them. But not everyone was comfortable with the mission's scope. Captain Liu of the cruiser Harmony raised her hand hesitantly. Admiral, are we certain this is the only way? Have we attempted any form of communication? Perhaps if they understood our capabilities. Admiral Sterling's expression was unforgiving. Captain Liu, the Cathara had 20 years to attempt peaceful contact. Instead, they chose to spy on us, plan our extinction, and murder our civilians. They've made their position clear. Now we'll make ours clear. She gestured to the tactical display showing the alien invasion fleet. That force will arrive at Earth in 10 months. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier they have will be focused on wiping out human civilization. We can wait for them to come to us, or we can end this now. The final vote was unanimous, though Maria could see the reluctance in some officers' faces. They were about to commit an act that would define humanity for generations to come. The species that had once dreamed of peaceful contact with alien civilizations was preparing to exterminate their first extraterrestrial neighbors. As Task Force Retribution prepared for the jump to Cathara Prime, Maria stood in her quarters aboard the Retribution, staring out at the assembled fleet. 400 ships carrying the combined fury of humanity, ready to deliver judgment on an entire species. Her personal communicator chimed with a message from Commander Park, the survivor from Kepler Station. He was back on Earth now, helping to coordinate planetary defenses for the expected alien attack. Captain Santos, his recorded voice said, I wanted you to know that the families of Kepler Station are grateful for what you're doing. My daughter Elena, the Rodriguez children, all the people who didn't make it home, they deserve justice. Maria closed her eyes, remembering the empty corridors of Kepler Station, the twisted metal where families had lived and worked and dreamed of building something better among the stars. The Cathara had shown no mercy then. They would receive none now. The jump to Cathara Prime would take Task Force Retribution into the heart of alien space, where they would face not just military opposition, but the moral weight of their own actions. They were no longer just defending humanity. They were choosing to become something darker, something capable of genocide in the name of survival. But as the fleet prepared to jump, one thing was certain. The Cathara had awakened something in humanity that they were not prepared to face. The species that had once sent messages of peace into space was now bringing war to an alien world, and they would not stop until their enemy was completely destroyed. The Cathara system was beautiful in a way that made humanity's approaching destruction of it all the more terrible. 12 worlds orbited the red dwarf star in perfect harmony, their crystalline cities glinting like jewels against the cosmic void. For millions of years, this system had been home to a civilization that saw itself as the perfect balance of art, science, and spiritual achievement. Task Force Retribution dropped out of hyperspace at the system's edge, like a plague of metal locusts. 400 human warships arranged themselves in attack formations that had been refined through months of war games and tactical simulation. Every captain knew their target, every weapons officer had memorized their firing solutions, and every crew member understood that they were about to participate in the complete annihilation of an alien species. Admiral Sterling stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution, watching as her fleet's sensors catalogued the Cathara defenses. Orbital platforms surrounded each world like mechanical moons, their crystalline weapons tracking the incoming human vessels. Defense fleets moved with the elegant precision that characterized all Cathara technology, forming protective formations around their homeworld. Sensor analysis complete, Admiral. reported Commander Jackson. "We count approximately 1,500 alien vessels in defensive positions. Their orbital platforms number in the thousands. They're not going to make this easy." Maria Santos, now serving as Sterling's tactical coordinator, studied the enemy formations with the cold professionalism of someone who had already seen the cost of underestimating these aliens. They're arranging themselves for a traditional defensive battle. Layered formations, concentrated firepower, gradual fallback to the homeworld. "They still don't understand what they're facing," Sterling observed grimly. "They think this is another ritualistic conflict. They're about to learn the difference between war and extermination." The first phase of the battle began with humanity's long-range missile barrage. Planet-killer warheads streaked across the system like falling stars, their quantum warheads designed to crack continents and boil oceans. The Kythera defense platforms responded with their characteristic precision, elegant energy beams lancing out to intercept the incoming weapons. What followed was a display of technological and philosophical warfare that redefined both species' understanding of conflict. The Kythera fought with tactical brilliance, their ships moving in perfect coordination, their weapons striking with surgical accuracy. They disabled human ships rather than destroying them when possible, following military protocols developed over millennia of limited warfare. Humanity fought like a force of nature given mechanical form. When Kythera precision strikes disabled primary weapons systems, human ships continued fighting with secondary batteries. When alien boarding parties attempted to capture human vessels intact, they found crew members who would rather detonate their own ships than surrender. When Kythera commanders offered terms for honorable surrender, human captains responded with ramming attacks that turned their vessels into kinetic weapons. The outer defense perimeter fell within 6 hours. The Kythera had never faced an enemy willing to accept such massive casualties to achieve their objectives. Human losses were enormous, but every destroyed human ship took multiple alien vessels with it, and the survivors kept advancing toward Kythera Prime. "Admiral, we're receiving communication attempts from the alien flagship," reported Communications Officer Reyes. "They're trying to establish dialogue." Sterling's expression was stone. "Let me hear it." The alien transmission filled the bridge with haunting musical tones that human translators converted into understandable language. The voice was elegant and refined, carrying the weight of ancient civilization and desperate hope. "Human commanders, I am Fleet Singer Morthak of the Kythera 1st Defense Harmony. We acknowledge your tactical superiority and request terms for cessation of hostilities. Our understanding of your species was incomplete. We offer cultural exchange, territorial concessions, and reparations for the incident at your mining facility." The bridge was silent except for the soft sounds of combat coordination. Through the viewports, the crystalline beauty of Kythera Prime grew larger as the human fleet advanced, its blue-green surface unmarked by the weapons that would soon tear it apart. Maria found herself thinking of the Kepler station survivors, huddled in their emergency shelter while their world died around them. Commander Park's daughter, Elena Rodriguez's children, all the families that would never see their loved ones again because the Kythera had decided humanity needed to be eliminated. "Admiral," she said quietly, "they're calling it an incident." Sterling activated the communications channel, her voice carrying the accumulated fury of her entire species. "Fleet Singer Morthak, this is Admiral Rebecca Sterling of the United Earth Space Forces. 20 years ago, you could have made peaceful contact. Instead, you chose to spy on us, plan our extinction, and murder our civilians. The time for negotiation ended when you fired on Kepler Station." She paused, looking out at the alien world that was now within range of humanity's most powerful weapons. "You wanted to test our capabilities. Consider this your final examination." The assault on Kythera Prime began with a bombardment that lit up the system like a newborn star. Every human ship opened fire simultaneously, quantum torpedoes and antimatter warheads streaking toward the planet's surface in waves of annihilation. The Cathara planetary shields, technological marvels that had protected their world for millennia, lasted exactly 17 minutes against humanity's concentrated firepower. What followed was systematic destruction on a scale that defied comprehension. Continent-killer missiles punched through the planet's crust, triggering volcanic eruptions that painted the atmosphere red with ash and flame. Ocean boiler weapons turned vast seas to superheated steam, creating hurricane-force winds that scoured the surface clean of life. The crystalline cities that had stood for millions of years cracked like delicate glass, their spired beauty collapsing into glowing rubble. Ancient forests that had been carefully tended by generations of Cathara gardeners burned to ash in minutes. Mountain ranges that had inspired alien poets for eons were flattened by kinetic bombardment. Maria watched from the Retribution's bridge as an entire civilization died. The tactical display showed target after target going dark as human weapons found their marks. Industrial complexes that had produced art and science for millennia were reduced to molten craters. Population centers that had housed billions of thinking, feeling beings became fields of glass. Cathara Prime's core is destabilizing, reported the weapons officer. Planetary destruction will be complete within 2 hours. But Sterling was not finished. As Cathara Prime died in fire and fury, the human fleet spread throughout the system like a plague of metal death. Every Cathara colony, every space station, every outpost was marked for destruction. The elegant alien vessels that tried to evacuate their civilians were hunted down and destroyed with ruthless efficiency. The agricultural world of Cathara Secundus, where alien farmers had grown food to feed their species for centuries, was sterilized with biological weapons that turned its fertile soil into poisoned wasteland. The scientific colony on Cathara Tertius, where the greatest alien minds had worked to understand the universe, was shattered by gravitational bombs that collapsed its research stations into quantum singularities. One by one, 12 worlds that had sustained alien life for millions of years became barren rocks orbiting an indifferent star. The Cathara, who had seen themselves as the perfect culmination of intelligence and civilization, were reduced to scattered debris floating in the void of space. The battle was over within 18 hours. Where once the Cathara had built a magnificent interstellar civilization, now there was only silence and ash. Their beautiful ships drifted as twisted wreckage, their crystalline cities were melted glass, and their proud species was extinct. Admiral Sterling stood in her ready room, reviewing the final casualty reports. Humanity had lost 63 ships and nearly 30,000 crew members. The Cathara had lost everything. "Admiral," Maria said quietly from the doorway, "we're receiving scattered transmissions from Cathara survivors. Small groups that were off-world when we attacked. They're requesting sanctuary, offering to surrender unconditionally." Sterling turned to look out at the devastated system, where human ships moved methodically through the wreckage, ensuring that nothing could ever again threaten Earth. How many survivors? Intelligence estimates fewer than 10,000, scattered across multiple systems. Without their homeworld and industrial base, they pose no threat to humanity. The silence stretched between them. 10,000 survivors from a species that had numbered in the billions just hours before. The mathematical precision of genocide made stark by simple numbers. "Let them live," Sterling said finally. "Let them remember what happens when you attack human beings. Let them spread the word to any other species out there who might be watching." As Task Force Retribution began its journey home, the message it carried was written in the ashes of an entire civilization. Humanity had been tested by alien aggression and had responded with total annihilation. They had proven themselves capable of mercy and creation, but also of fury beyond any alien comprehension. The scattered survivors of the Kithara would indeed spread the word throughout the galaxy. They spoke in hushed whispers of the humans, the species that had seemed so peaceful and vulnerable until their civilians were threatened. They told of ships that would ram enemy vessels rather than retreat, of crews that would die fighting rather than surrender, and of a military doctrine that made no distinction between combatants and those who supported them. Other alien civilizations, species that had been watching humanity's expansion with interest or concern, quietly updated their first contact protocols. The humans were to be approached with utmost caution, if at all. Any contact would be peaceful, respectful, and carefully negotiated through intermediaries. The species that had once seemed like promising partners for trade and cultural exchange were now classified as an existential threat that should never, under any circumstances, be provoked. Years later, when human exploration ships encountered new alien species, they found civilizations that greeted them with careful politeness and obvious fear. The reputation of humanity had spread faster than their ships. Carried by Kithara survivors and passed through alien communication networks like a virus of terror. Maria Santos, promoted to admiral after her service with Task Force Retribution, often found herself thinking about the moral cost of their victory. Humanity had survived, their colonies were safe, and Earth would never again face the threat of Kithara invasion. But they had bought that security with the complete destruction of another species, and the knowledge of what they had done would forever change how they saw themselves. In the end, the Kithara had been right about one thing. Humanity was a rapidly expanding species that would reshape the galaxy around them. What they had failed to understand was that this expansion would be built on the ashes of anyone foolish enough to threaten human civilians. The mining outpost at Kepler Station was eventually rebuilt, its new memorial wall listing the names of the 300 souls who had died in humanity's first contact with alien intelligence. Among those names was Elena Park, age 7, who had dreamed of becoming an astronaut and exploring the stars. Her dreams had come true in a way her father could never have imagined. The human species had indeed reached for the stars, and they had done so with weapons in their hands and the fury of the righteous in their hearts. The galaxy would remember Kepler Station not as the site of humanity's first defeat, but as the spark that ignited their transformation from peaceful explorers to the most feared military power in known space. The message was simple and absolute. Humanity would go anywhere, explore anything, and build whatever they chose among the stars. But touch their children, threaten their families, or harm their civilians, and they would unleash destruction that would make the death of worlds seem like mercy. The Kithara had wanted to test humanity's resolve. In the ashes of their civilization, they had received their answer.